Hello and welcome to another episode of the Conscious Conversation series. I'm delighted to have Hannah Mackay with us this morning, and we'll be diving into her shiatsu journey. We'll discover different nuggets of wisdom from behind the scenes, and we'll explore different areas of her shiatsu journey. Good morning, Hannah. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Morning.
How are you feeling this morning?
Yeah, good, thanks. I've been doing lots of shiatsu teaching over the weekend, and then we had a teacher training meeting yesterday, so kind of all in the flow of shiatsu teaching mode.
Wonderful. It's lovely to hear that. I know you began your shiatsu training in 1994,
hmm
and I'd love to find out more about your background. Would you like to tell us more about it?
Yeah, so when I was kind of just pondering on coming to have this conversation, I was thinking about being someone who started my training quite early. So in 1994, I was 23, so I was quite young. But already before that, I'd had quite a lot of experience of um, body work that's quite similar to shiatsu, because my mum's friend, who was called Carrie Jost, was training in kinesiology when I was a teenager. So while I was still at school, I was one of her people when you need to practice, get your friends to come and your friends' kids to come. So I went and had some kinesiology from her, and some of that is, it's not dissimilar from shiatsu. Some of it, it's like I don't think the meridian work was quite as like good as we do, but it was meridian work, and it was yeah. So I'd really been having that probably for like off and on while I was still at school, and then when I was at university, when I went back to my mum's, I'd kind of go and have a balance was how we described it. Go and have a session with her, and it kind of started off more straightforward, I guess. Like she did sessions that were like preparing teenagers for their exams at school. That was one of her little things. So I
Wow.
was kind of one of her like guinea pigs to go and like practice that when she was developing that. But then it did go a lot deeper quite quickly. So I guess although in a way like 23 maybe seems like quite young to be starting your shiatsu training compared to a lot of our people, I had actually already done quite a lot of receiving really before that. So I guess when I just saw a flyer up in the local health food shop of like somebody doing an introductory day. That was with Kate Burford, so she was just I was in her first sort of cohort of people who trained with her. So it was just a matter of going in to do like I think it was a half day introductory kind of thing. And I think there was a familiarity there when I arrived there. I think it was like, oh yeah, this is something that I know. And I think another thing with doing that first kind of half day was that I went with my boyfriend of the time and with another friend. So it's like we kind of went as a little, hey, let's all go and do this together kind of thing. And my friend that I went with was Zoe Pirry, whom we carried on to then do the training together. So there's that sense for me of it was kind of already familiar, and it was like setting off into that kind of world with other people. So yeah, that's just a little bit about my kind of starting point, I guess, with doing shiatsu.
How amazing that you had the opportunity to find body work, even though it wasn't shiatsu to begin with at a younger age.
Mm,
And you had the ability to connect with the body and then move on to develop something as great as you've done so far. I know you have a thriving practice in Manchester, and I also know
mhm.
you're the branch leader of the Shiatsu College in Manchester.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, when you first had that introductory session,
Mm.
you mentioned that there was like a knowing, this is familiar, this is something that I want to be part of. When did you notice that it was the moment for you to start a career in Shiatsu?
So for me, I don't think like for some people it's like they already had a career and they went, oh, I need to like not do that now or split.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for me, I was 1994 was quite a kind of interesting starting point in lots of directions for me. So I had a degree in psychology, and then I'd had a kind of year after I'd done that, like
Mm-hmm.
applying for PhD studentships and kind of looking for finding my way. So
Mm-hmm.
when I did that introductory Shiatsu day, I just started doing a PhD in psychotherapy research,
Mm-hmm.
psychotherapy process research. So I was doing that at the same time. So I didn't
Mm-hmm.
already have a career. It's like, so
Mm-hmm.
I was still in the kind of that bit in your early 20s when you're going, okay, what's happening here? What am I going to do? So I did my Shiatsu training alongside my PhD at the same time. So
Wow.
I finished them basically at the same time. Um, so so then there was a kind of parallel career development. So in my last year of my training, I was um, seeing clients,
Mm-hmm.
shiatsu clients, and I was like finishing my PhD. So then I went into a research job, but
Mm-hmm.
like not full time. So I said I only want to work. I think it was like 4 days a week. I had a research job 4 days a week, and then I had a day to do my shiatsu practice.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as it is with university research jobs, they're kind of generally like short contracts. So then
Okay.
I got another contract where I basically they it was set up as a full time job, but at a lower pay grade. So I
Mm-hmm.
said I'll do that job, but I'll do it in three and a half days a week, and then I'll have a day, so have a day and a half to do my shiatsu practice. So that's when I moved to Manchester to do that research job. So it kind of built up in that kind of way. Really, it was kind of an organic thing of just like following the threads. So that the two things being in parallel carried on until I went on maternity leave in 2003. Um, and then after that, then I didn't end up going back into academia, which wasn't so much a kind of choice that I wasn't going to do. It's just like kind of how it happened with how it was for me being a mum.
Mm-hmm.
So I then had being a mum and the shiatsu practice carrying on. So it kind of all just flowed along rather than there being a time where I made a specific choice to put something down.
Mm-hmm. So
Mm.
in a sense, life happened for you. There were these two career paths, and I hear that they were supporting one another. Do you want to tell me a bit more about that? Has your degree in psychology influenced the way that you practice shiatsu, or the other way around?
So I think there's compared to many shiatsu practitioners, I'm quite academic. So I like to look at things, go, I think the kind of sense of like the training in psychology of being able to look at, oh, well, if we say, I've done this and it's caused that, do we really know
Mm-hmm.
that? How do we know? How might we kind of separate out correlation, so things that just happen at the same time versus
Mm-hmm.
causation, like I did this and therefore that happened. These kind of things I think are useful in my basic way of thinking that then informs my practice kind of thing. My PhD was in psychotherapy process research,
I
so it
see.
means I was working in a team that were all psychotherapy process researchers,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is quite an interesting thing to do. So I wasn't a psychotherapist. They were psychotherapists, clinical psychologists that I was working with, my supervisors. But it meant a kind of deep dive really into um, like looking at helpful what constitutes helpful change, looking really at very fine detail.
Mm-hmm.
So my PhD was looking at how the client's experience of emotion during a helpful session, how does that mirror like or relate to the theories that are going on behind the therapy that's happening. And I guess one thing to bring in the more slightly less academic side is that when I was so I had a PhD studentship, and then within that, it's like, right, well, what are you going to look at? So it's that kind of process of what am I interested in here? What do I want
Mm-hmm.
to research and discover about? And I did a five rhythms workshop. So my sister had just started teaching five rhythms, and I did a workshop with one of the more senior teachers, which was about emotion. And having done that, I kind of then went, right, I'm going to do it on emotion. That's what I'm interested in, like that. So that came really from that kind of experience of that embodied exploration of emotion that happened in that dance workshop. So kind of allowing that really to feed in like that. And I think doing the shiatsu training while I was doing a PhD for me was really helpful, because it meant I had one weekend a month where I went and lay on the floor and crawled around and did body things, which I think that was probably very helpful and grounding, and stopped me getting as stressed as I would have done otherwise and things like that. So
No, that's wonderful to hear. And when you have this critical thinking already embedded in you and you're developing it even more through your degree, it makes you look at shiatsu through different lenses as well. And
yeah,
not just practice because it's something pleasant, even though that could be a good enough reason, but also understanding the why behind everything that happens there. And
yeah. So I think then so my last research job that I did before I went on maternity leave was looking at shiatsu. So it was part of this project that was funded by the European Shiatsu Federation, that was partly funded through shiatsu practitioners and through organisations in different countries. And then this research, so I'd been a little bit involved earlier on when I was on the board of the Shiatsu Society and kind of a little bit in setting it up. But I came in then and worked at the University of Salford with Andrew Long on this research project. And that again was very interesting, like doing this piece of research looking at what are it was experience and effects of shiatsu. So I was there in the early part of the project, which was about saying, how do we want to look at this when we then go forward and give people questionnaires before and after their treatment, or these kinds of things, like what should be on those questionnaires, what are we actually looking at here? So that was a really great experience for me at that point in my practice, where I guess I'd been practicing for kind of 5 years or something like that, to have a chance to talk to experienced shiatsu practitioners and clients about what they thought was going on. Really interesting to have an hour talking to somebody else's shiatsu client, like not someone who you already know and you've been working with, but somebody else where they kind of tell you stuff that's like them. They say, oh, I never really told my shiatsu practitioner this, but after I had this work, loads of people started asking me out. I wasn't interested, but like people on the street would just start asking me out, and like, what's that about? That was from the shiatsu. Like, she was really clear that was from the shiatsu. And she's like, I didn't really talk to my practitioner about this, but it definitely seemed to be a result of, and she kind of told me what I'd been doing, and he'd obviously been working on the heart protector meridian. And it was like after that so I don't think we can set ourselves up as being like, come and have shiatsu and then people will ask you out, but it's
Imagine that in
for
the
that
modern.
person, it wasn't what she was looking for. But it was like, because she had a partner and she was quite happy with him. But it's like, just that kind of to hear some of the kind of detail of what people's experiences have been. When you're not there saying, right, what do you want from the session today, or so that was kind of a combination of those different aspects of what I was doing.
How wonderful this is. Like, imagine the modern dating having the tagline that you've mentioned, come to a shiatsu session and then this may happen. Obviously, we're joking here, even though we know there's so many benefits of having a shiatsu treatment and doing grassroots shiatsu. And like you've mentioned, the start of your journey through an introductory course. Like, there's so many ways to, in a sense, get in touch with shiatsu, give and receive, and find out what is it that you need from this practice. I want to dive even more deep in what you've mentioned, but I do want to go back to one of the core questions of our conversations, which has to do with the way that you define shiatsu. How would you describe shiatsu to someone that has just came across it? They don't know anything about it. It's something that you're highly passionate about, and they're asking, what is it that can happen here? What can I get from this?
Yeah, so I would say for me, the core of shiatsu is that it's working with the body And
Mm-hmm.
through working with the body, it's connecting with a real big holistic sense of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So the practice, if you come and see me, it's probably going to involve lying down. It's definitely going to involve hands-on work. It's going to involve me having a sense of how do I connect with this person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it'll be paying attention to how the body is, how the body feels. So some of that might be what you know as a person coming along to have a treatment as a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
It might be that you are really aware that your shoulders are tense or that you've got pain in your back. But some of the things you might not be that aware of because I've got lots of experience of paying attention to people's bodies, and some people don't have a very strong relationship with their own body. They don't really necessarily know. So sometimes people, for example, they might be aware that they've got pain in their neck, but they might not have been aware that that could have a link to an old injury that they had in their foot quite a long time ago. So
Mm-hmm.
they might not really have made that connection. Whereas because I've worked with lots of people's bodies, that sort of thing might come to me. But
Mm-hmm.
also to kind of say it's like really the whole sort of range of holistic ways of interacting with people. So I will say to people, it's really might be to be working on your neck and your old injury in your foot, but it
Mm-hmm.
might also be working on, for example, how you felt about that injury in your foot. Did you was it really upsetting? Did you have to kind of just keep on with things anyway? Did you feel really angry about how it had happened? And some of those emotional things we might still need to work through them, or they might be current emotional things, but also really about all the way through. So our how we think about things in life, and like how we make meaning of our life, how we kind of align ourselves to be more like um, what am I going for, what's important to me. All these things kind of come into it. Obviously my description of what shiatsu is, it would depend on the person that I was talking to. I think there's that sense as well of like, can I really relax? Can I really like relax and allow the things to happen within my body with somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
and in what way can I do that? I think that's also another key question.
And I can imagine that that can be quite a challenging journey for many of us in the modern society, being able to surrender, to let go, to be seen by someone, to allow yourself to be witnessed and to connect with the practitioner.
Yeah, I really wouldn't use the word surrender.
Okay,
So
tell me more.
I think that's like for me it's quite a something that happens between two people. So
Hmm.
it's not, so I think for me surrender would be like that the client just has to not participate and just let it
Hmm.
happen, and the practitioner knows and leads and does it. Whereas that's not really how shiatsu is for me. It's like it's a relationship. It's like what are you bringing that you're interested in me seeing today, and that you're
Hmm.
interested in me working on. And it might be like you're totally not interested in that old thing, you just want to like work on it, that's fine. Or it
Hmm.
might be you're not really interested in um you know something that's about your emotions, and like we want to focus down on your shoulder and how that is, for
Hmm.
example. So I wouldn't say surrender. I would say kind of relax and be present with each other and allow that to happen in a way that works for you.
Wonderful. So instead of surrender, it would be more a moment of co-creation.
Yeah. Mm,
Great. I love that. And I also appreciate the fact that you've mentioned that you would describe shiatsu differently depending on the person that you work with, because
yeah.
it's such a rich and abundant practice that it's quite difficult to pull out a single definition. That's
Mm,
something that I've observed in other conversations as well. But I do hear the element of co-creation. I've heard you
mm,
mentioning the presence and body work, hands-on on therapy,
yeah.
which is part of your practice. Um, with reflection to your practice, I'm wondering whether throughout the years you've had some memorable moments that you would like to share with us, some moments of impact with your clients, moments where something unique happened that stayed with you.
Mm. Yeah, so I think for me, So one thing for me really important with my practice is that I work really long term with lots of people.
Mm-hmm.
So so kind of it's not quite what you're asking, but it's like being alongside somebody like right through. So like the person who I work with now, who I've been working with the longest,
Mm-hmm.
started coming to see me in 2000. So I've been
Wow.
working with her for 25 years, like
25
most of
years,
the
yes.
time, every couple of weeks. So it's like to really like be alongside that person for that length of time. And she came to see me first when she was pregnant, and then I got to go to see her son with his new baby. So when she became a grandmother, like, so that was a kind of like,
Wow.
I remember when you hadn't even been born yet, and then now there you are with your baby. So that's kind of an interesting thing of like really being with somebody like through that long kind of process. So there are those senses of like particular moments that stay with me, but I think also having that sense of continuity and being alongside somebody is a really important aspect of my practice.
Mm-hmm.
um, I've had some clients where it's felt like from the outside it might look quite small, but like somebody who is dealing with a lot of health conditions, and then they
Mm-hmm.
come and see you. And I work with somebody who came to our student clinic. So she came to work in the students see people as part of their training, so she
Mm-hmm.
came in that, and then she came. So we have like 4 of those over the year. So then when February comes around, there aren't any more of them until the next November. So she then
Yeah.
came to see me, and we started working together. Um, and she had like quite a lot of different health conditions. And then I remember kind of asking her, "Oh, has your sleep improved?" And her going, "Yes, actually, like I'm actually sleeping much better." And for me, like in a way that seems like a small thing, but to have somebody coming where they've got a lot of chronic health problems and their sleep is really impacted, just to have that thing of like, oh, they're sleeping a bit better. It's like that's a really important kind of shift, because it's like then their whole body's got a chance to try to reset itself during the night if you're actually asleep. And
Mm-hmm.
so these sort of things where it's about really long-term work, I think shiatsu is great for, because we're able to build that relationship with somebody. They're coming, they're enjoying the session, they're coming to something. If you're someone who's got multiple health conditions, actually having an appointment that you go to where it's going to be nice, you're going to lie down, you're going to talk a bit about how you are, but then you're also going to have a rest. And this person, like, she comes every week and she's like, "Oh, I feel better after the treatment." It doesn't normally last like the whole week,
Mm-hmm.
but she has like, so she thinks, okay, well, if I have my shiatsu, then I know I'll have a couple of days where I'm quite well, so I'll be able to do a bit more. I'll be able to put in an appointment where I, meet a friend or something like that, and there's more chance that she'll feel well to do that. And it's like that's making such a big difference in somebody's actual experience of living their life, to have that sense of, I know I can go and have my shiatsu and then I'll probably feel a bit better,
Yeah.
And then I guess there's other people. I work with somebody quite long term who's died now, um, but working with him was a very interesting experience, I guess. Like, I found him a really like great person to work with. I had a lot of appreciation for him. His health wasn't great when I started working with him, and then it got worse. And then he ended up in hospital, and he was like, he'd been in a coma, and then he came out of the coma. So I went to see him in intensive care when he was like just being brought out of the coma. And like that was a very, very intense session, because I felt like he knew I was there in some different kind of, he hadn't really emerged back
Mm-hmm.
into full consciousness. But I did kidney 1 on him, and I felt like something in him wake up. That was my experience of it. Was like there's something in him there where, and I thought to myself, which I've no idea whether this was true, but I thought to myself, I bet nobody else does this on him. So he's really going to know this is me. Nobody else like holds
Mm-hmm.
kidney 1 like this, and he's been coming to see me for years, And it's like I kind of felt like that perhaps is part of him that knows I'm here, you know, and that's very different from the way that somebody in a hospital deals with somebody's body, you know. And I carried on seeing him for quite a long time in hospital, and he said, so I'm sharing this here because he said everybody should know this, is that how important it is to have our mother hand. So he said, I wish people in the hospital who are working with me, like nurses and doctors, health professionals, would know about the mother hand, because actually it makes such a big difference to his experience of pain and his experience of people working with his body. So I kind of feel like, oh yeah, I like to mention that because he said people should know about this. I wish that doctors and nurses would know about it.
Thank you for considering the confidentiality of the patient. And it's so wonderful to hear that there is this type of support available. Like when someone is going through something, even just having the mother hand or having someone come into the same space with you, a resource around you. I think in the modern society, that's something that is very, very valuable, and not everyone has access to this. So the more we talk about this, the more easy it will be to access. Is this the most rewarding aspect of being a shiatsu practitioner, or what is it for you?
Um, I think for me, I really like that sense of being alongside somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the sense of being able to hold a connection with the things that are really difficult for people. That might be, you know, something that's happened in the past. It might be their ongoing health. It might be their emotional well-being.
Yeah.
It might be their family circumstance, all these things. To hold that on one hand, and on the other hand, to hold the sense of like what's really functioning really well for them, what's brilliant about them, what's the ways in which they're funny, the ways in which they're keeping on going anyway despite all these difficulties, or the way in which they allow themselves to completely crumble, and you know, whatever it is, to the things that are like really positive. So to allow both of those things to be present at the same time, you know, and I think that sense that we have in shiatsu of like working with the kyo and jitsu, specifically working with like two different things at the same time. I
Mm-hmm.
think that really lends itself to that way of working with people, where we're not just going, oh, you know, you're someone with mental health problems, so therefore, you know, there's something wrong with you and you've got that.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, oh, you're someone who is a leader and who is, you know, running a company and highly successful. You know, and so therefore we're supporting you in that success. It's like that's the
Mm-hmm.
same person. You know, I'm thinking of somebody there where either of those could be, you know, like you could write a case study about that person, seeming like they've got really serious problems, they've got all these incredibly difficult things in their past, da da da. Or you could write about that person going like how amazing a life they've had and how successful they've been.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like in shiatsu we can let both those things be there at once, and I think that's something that I really like about it. It's kind of a little bit underground in our system, but I think that's really there, that we can hold these, and we can see like the meridian system as like maybe holding some of these different things at different times, you know. um and I think, you know, I really like kind of um sort of that strong relationship between me and other people, and how like kind of being there with the intense stuff is kind of quite good for me. I quite like that, to have that exploration of, you know, can we go even deeper, even deeper? What else is this about? You know, not kind of probing, it's not about that,
Mm-hmm.
but allowing the things really to emerge on different levels, and like being surprised, kind of going, oh wow, it seems to be about this. Or, oh, I didn't think I was going to suddenly be thinking about how furry little bumblebees are, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
little really specific things that come up in a session, like that's nothing to do with seemingly anything that's been talked about, but it's like those kind of um real interesting kind of things that come up, you know. And I think also like I really enjoy having a sort of vicarious sense of um other people's bodily experience. I had someone come to see me recently who was a really good basketball player when he was younger. He was like, he was kind of went to an academy for training to be a basketball player. And I was working on his hands, and I could suddenly feel what it was to be able to play basketball really well, which I must say is not anything that I've really experienced in my own life. But like this hand that was like, oh, me and the basketball, we're like one thing. I know how to do. And it lasted like for about a day afterwards. I kind of felt like, I feel like I would be able to play basketball really well. I didn't get a ball and try it out because there isn't even a ball around my house. But it's like that sense of like how it is to have that different sort of bodily experience, So I like that as well.
No, that's wonderful. I believe it takes a lot of strength to be able to hold space for people in that manner. And at the same time, a lot of courage to be able to go even deeper, even deeper. And then to allow yourself to separate from what's happening, witness, observe the experience, feel like a basketball player, like you mentioned. And then the next day, yes, back to my own self. Even though it was lovely to have that experience. Wow, it's I really appreciate your approach, and I really like how conscious you are of the multi-facets of being human. It's not just one label, it's not just one type of person, it's not just one path that someone can go through. It's different layers, and they all come to surface, and they're equally important. And I even saw you, in case you're listening to this recording and you're not seeing the video, Hannah was waving the hands up in the air to in a sense find balance between, let's say, the light and the shadow and all the other binary elements that we can find. What are your hopes for Shiatsu in the UK? How do you see Shiatsu in the UK? Has anything changed over the last few years? Is there anything that you see changing even further?
So it's an interesting question. I don't really know about how it is like through the UK. I kind of approach these things with a sense of kind of hopefulness and possibility is my kind of start of my perspective, I guess. I think the way that I can see how it can be is that it's about people building and creating their own practice in a way that is a reflection really of their own energy. So I have my own practice, but like when I'm talking to my students, I'm kind of going, you might not find that your clients are really like mine. It's like you might find most of your clients are all runners who all want to come and like get help with their running injuries, where I don't really see many of those people. Or you might find that I work with people who in some ways are a bit like me. I work with a lot of academics, a lot of therapists, people who have those similarities with me, as well as loads of other people as well. But not that many basketball players. That was more of an unusual kind of person, although of course that person had a load of other, they weren't just a basketball player, of course. But I think in terms of, so I think there's a real sense of always that requirement for me of like that real holistic holding. And it's like, it feels like that is kind of unfortunately seeming to become more difficult for people in the world of the health service as it is at the moment. That it's like there's a movement away from seeing a known and trusted person and being able to share with them your experience of your health and your life in relation to that. So I think there's definitely a space for where we're needed, but whether how that works out, I don't know. And I think as a shiatsu teacher and somebody like running the branch, it's like being really aware that some people are coming in and they're like kind of going, right, well, this might be my new thing, this might be like a career, this might be something where I'm gonna be doing this, I'd like to do this full time. And there's lots of other people where that's not what their starting point is. It's like they've already got something else, and it might be this is a small thing in relation and that sits next to their bigger other kind of career or other things that they're spending time doing. And there are quite a lot of people who are quite a bit older. So it's quite a different kind of thing if you're in your 50s or 60s starting shiatsu training. Of course, it's not going to be the same as if you're in your 20s or 30s starting your shiatsu training. And I think that's a brilliant thing that we've got people in different stages of their life coming into the training course. And I think it's quite a lot to be somebody who can do the actual work with the clients, and also somebody who can create a practice, run a business, be self-employed. And as I see it, that's the main way that you can be a shiatsu practitioner at the moment. I don't see anytime soon there being that many people who are employed by a GP's practice, or who are, it's not like being a counsellor, for example, where you can train in counselling and then you can apply for a job as a counsellor in a school or in a university or in a GP's practice. And it's a job where somebody else is doing all the bits about how do you set up your record keeping and how do you find clients, and those bits are not what you're doing. You're just seeing the clients. But I mean, then you do have the downside of having to fit into the structures and everything of what's expected as somebody who's employed, sort of thing. So I think that's quite challenging, to both be the kind of person who can work with clients and be sensitive, and and at the same time be somebody who can think about the money stuff and organize things. That's a little bit challenging. So I'm not sure that answered your question, but what we are noticing in our branch at Shiatsu College Manchester is we have quite a lot of students at the moment. So that's good. There was a bit of time just after the pandemic when we felt like we had fewer people, and it was a little bit more difficult to, I think it was the people sort of felt like they couldn't really plan ahead. I think for a bit after that, there was like the people who would have been kind of going, all right, I'm going to do this in 3 years, that had all been messed about. So it's like that kind of, so it feels like it's kind of just coming back to maybe a little bit of a more settled place, where people are more able to feel like, oh yeah, I can sort of embark on something. And it's really obvious to me running the course that like some people like do year 1, then they do year 2, then they do year 3, and they finish. Controversial, but some people do that. Loads of other people don't do that. They do year 1, then they kind of haven't quite finished it and something happens in their life, so they do year 1 again, or they have a little break and then they come back, or they kind of dip in and out of year 1 again, and then they do year 2. Or like they do year 1 and then they do year 2 and then they do year 2 again because something happened, or it's like, so it's not necessarily that kind of very linear thing. It's like making a space for people who might need to take longer, or who might have things happen in their life, or they have issues with their health or mental health, physical health, where they need longer to do it. So I think it's great to be able to provide that to people, so you've got that mix of people in the class.
And there's also the flexibility that you've mentioned. I'm wondering whether the business aspect, self-employment, learning how to promote yourself and actually build a thriving practice is one of the biggest challenges that you've observed shiatsu practitioners have to deal with.
Well, I think one of the things that's quite tricky is while you're like in your 3rd year and you're learning shiatsu, that takes up quite a lot of your mental capacity, especially if you might have a job or have children or elderly parents or something like that, where you can't just go, I'm just focused on shiatsu. People have other things that they've got to do. So I think it's quite hard to develop the clinical skills and the actual practical skills and all that stuff, and at the same time be really focused on the building of practice and things. So I think some of that is about how do we support people after they've graduated, or after they've finished the course, after they've mopped up the last bits of the assignments that they needed to do or whatever. So I think like some people need so that's the point at which you kind of go, oh, can I do this? I think like how the training is at the moment, you kind of can't do that very easily while you're still doing your third year. You're already quite full up with that. So so some people come and have like tutorials and supervision and stuff with me, which like sometimes that then gets to the some of the issues of why that's difficult for somebody to step into practice, whatever things that might be. And then I do have a sort of rolling program of continuing professional development for people, for any shiatsu practitioners, but it's people who have trained with me, with our team. And I think it's like having that sense of the sort of shiatsu community continuing. It's not just so that they're learning something with me, it's also like meeting up with each other and trying to sort of learn from each other about what might be possible, remind themselves, like partly through receiving shiatsu in the class, that like they really like shiatsu. Oh yeah, of course, it's brilliant. Of course I want to go and do this. Everybody would love it because I just had some again and remembered it was great, you know. Because sometimes when we're focused on building up our practice, we don't receive as much, especially when we've just graduated, where we're used to like going and receiving from the other students like every month, and then we don't have that anymore. So yeah, and it's like there are things to sort of to try and find your way with there. I remember when I was doing some assisting before I started teaching, a teacher who wasn't somebody that I worked with very much sort of came in and he taught this class going, well, you'll never be able to have a shiatsu practice where people are mainly coming for like self-development and things like that. And I thought, oh, I think I've got one of those, you know, if I was in practice then. And it's like, really, that is a big part of my practice. And that's partly because of where I live and the kinds of people who I see. You know, I don't see that many people coming and saying, I've got this injury, please mend it. You know, I see some of those people, but it's like actually people who kind of know that they need somebody alongside them, somebody where they want to keep going to. You know, that's quite a different kind of practice to be building, I think.
I can appreciate that. I'm wondering, what would you tell someone who's just starting their shiatsu journey? What do you tell your students when they join in?
Oh, well, the students are really varied. So it's like so some people come and they've received loads of shiatsu already, and then they think, actually, I might like to learn this, or I've now got time to learn this. And some people, you know, come in because they've got all sorts of different backgrounds where that's meant that they think they might want to come and do shiatsu. So I don't think I have a particular thing that I kind of tell people, because I think that some people are really going, right, I want this to be my profession. And other people, like, they're kind of going, oh, let's come and do this and see what happens. So it's like holding that variety is the sort of main thing.
So that would be the main tip. Just notice what comes towards you, notice what variety of people you end up working with, and based on that, provide the recommendations.
Yeah, I think it's like trying to think for us, if you're a student of shiatsu, trying to like have a bit of time kind of going, well, at the moment, what do I want from giving shiatsu? Like, what do I want as a giver of shiatsu? Do I want to be working towards earning money from this? Or do I want to do this because it helps me connect with members of my family that I'm giving shiatsu treatments to? You know, what do you want at the moment? And kind of really allowing that to be what's there at the moment, and allowing that might change. So, you know, for some people, it's like, it's just not going to work for them being a self-employed practitioner. That isn't what they're aiming for. You know, that might be much too stressful for them. They might be, you know, not at a place in their life where they can take that on. They might need the security of having a paid job, and that's not going to be doing shiatsu probably. But then there's the possibility of, as you move into it, something might change, you know. So, but I think really honouring like where you are at the moment. Do you want to be working towards earning money from this, you know, because that's not the only way.
Yeah. So it's a matter of honoring where you are. That's what I wrote down.
Yeah, and keeping the openness of what might change in the future, you know.
And staying open.
And I think what I do say to people is, you might not be a shiatsu practitioner like I am. That might not be what you're aiming for, you know. Like maybe quite similar to my practice, but also like maybe not, you know.
I remember you mentioned earlier building a practice reflective of your energy.
Mm,
So I'm gonna keep that in mind. Hannah, thank
mm.
you so much. It's been such an insightful conversation. We could go on for ages, but I'm very conscious of your time. Um, I'm wondering if there's any reason why you think people should join the Shiatsu Society.
So I have always really enjoyed being part of the Shiatsu Society. Quite soon after I graduated, I went onto the board, which was partly because there were things that I thought, oh, I'd like to look at this and make it better in the
Hmm.
society. But mainly it's about kind of trying to see that we could do things together. And that doesn't have to be about the sort of teacher student relationship or
Hmm.
the client practitioner relationship that we probably have within shiatsu, but
Yeah.
that sense of how would we like it to be, what could we do together. And
Hmm.
I think for me the best forum to do that is really through the shiatsu society, so that's why I would encourage people to join.
So the sense of community and support then.
Yeah.
How wonderful. Thank you so much. If there's anything that you would like to mention that I haven't had the opportunity to explore just yet, please do.
Yeah, so a little bit just to mention like the CPD opportunities that I offer.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to come and do stuff with me, feel free to get in touch and find out more. So that might be so this will be for advanced students and practitioners of shiatsu from any school. So my next workshop is on this coming Saturday, which I'm going to be working on ancestors and ancestral chi, which I'm
Wow.
very interested in. Been working on looking at our family ancestors and also looking at our shiatsu ancestors, like who came before us in our shiatsu world. So
Yeah.
that's all turning out very interesting in the preparation for it. And we've got our retreats that we do with the Shiatsu College in the Lake District in April. So plenty of opportunities to come and work with me if anybody was interested in that. But also just trying out different things, working with different people. Some of it clicks and some of it doesn't click, and that's great as practitioners to just go and try out different ways of developing our practice.
How wonderful. Thank you for that. We're gonna leave them in the caption so people have the chance to find you. I really appreciate your time, your energy, your resources, and all the wisdom that you shared with us today. Thank you for sharing the space with me, and thanks to all of you that are listening to this recording. Please like, share, subscribe, and everything else that comes with the marketing part, because a lot of work and love goes into these conversations, and I really appreciate it that you share the space with me, Hannah.
Great, thanks, Antonia.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.